The signal drifted across the void of space, faint and fragile, yet impossible to ignore. It carried strange sounds, pulsing rhythms, voices rising and falling, and patterns no alien mind had heard before. On the bridge of the Valorous, a long silver ship moving between the stars, the crew leaned closer to their consoles. Their eyes, dark and unblinking, shimmered with unease. "Captain," one officer said, his voice sharp with disbelief, "we've intercepted something from the outer spiral arm, a planet called Earth." The sound played again, a human song, soft, haunting. Most of the crew chuckled. To them, it sounded like nonsense, nothing but primitive noise. "Music," one sneered. "These creatures sing to empty skies? Truly, this is a species that has never seen real war." But the captain did not laugh. His face hardened as a melody filled the ship. There was something dangerous hiding beneath that simplicity. "Primitive," muttered the first officer, "but persistent. The signal repeats, again and again, as if they want to be found." The captain's eyes narrowed. He had studied many worlds, many young civilizations. Most burned out before they even touched the stars. But these humans, they were loud, they were reckless, and yet there was order inside the chaos of their voices. He gave the command no one expected. "Set course for this Earth." The journey took weeks. The crew grew restless, mocking the mission. They had faced predators with claws sharp enough to cut metal, beasts that tore apart armored soldiers. Compared to those, humans seemed laughable. "They will fall on their knees the moment they see us," one officer said proudly. "They will mistake us for gods." Another added, "Perhaps we can train them as pets, teach them simple tricks." But as their silver ship entered the solar system, the laughter began to fade. Earth was different. The planet hung against the blackness like a blue jewel. Vast oceans glimmered, white storms curled across its surface, and green land spread wide. It was alive, more alive than most worlds they had ever seen. "Strange," the science officer whispered. "The diversity here is extreme. Countless species. Predators, prey, forests, deserts, mountains. The planet itself, it is violent." The sensors picked up scars on the surface. Old craters from impacts, burned patches from ancient fires, and signals, so many signals, filling space with voices, images, and noise. Too much activity for such a young race, the captain said quietly. His unease grew. "They are not hiding. They are shouting." At last, the Valorous entered orbit. They chose a remote stretch of land to land their craft. The air shimmered as the ship descended, trees bending under its pressure. Animals scattered. The earth trembled. The landing ramp hissed open. For a moment, the aliens expected nothing but fear. They imagined creatures crawling from caves, trembling before them. But what they saw instead froze them in silence. A group of humans stood waiting. Not hiding, not running, waiting. Some wore strange uniforms, their faces steady, their eyes sharp. Behind them stood others with cameras, machines, and weapons. The humans had already seen the ship long before it landed. They had tracked it, and instead of cowering, they had prepared. The crew exchanged nervous glances. This was no frightened species. The captain stepped forward, tall and commanding. His voice echoed through a translator. "We come from beyond the stars. We are explorers. Who speaks for this world?" A man walked forward from the human group. His uniform was simple, his expression calm. His eyes locked onto the alien captains with unnerving steadiness. "I speak," he said. His voice carried strength that did not match the primitive image the crew had imagined. "You have entered Earth. You are not the first to watch us from the dark, but you may be the first to stand before us. Tell me, why are you here?" The translator crackled, carrying the words across the alien ship. The crew shifted uneasily. They had expected fear, trembling, awe. Instead, the human spoke with calm, with control. The captain tried again. "Your world is young. Your people are weak. The galaxy is filled with predators. You will not survive." But the human only smiled. "We've been told that before, by the ice that tried to freeze us, by the plagues that tried to kill us, by the wars that nearly ended us. And yet, We are still here. Silence fell. Even the alien crew felt a chill. For the first time, they realized the truth. These humans had survived a world that tried to kill them every day. They had endured storms, hunger, fire, and their own endless conflicts. And still, they rose. The captain's unease turned to dread. The council would want to hear of this. They would laugh, as always, but he knew what he was seeing. This was no weak race. This was something else. The humans were not prey. They were something far more dangerous. The message reached the stars faster than fire in dry grass. A new species had been found. A planet called Earth. Within days, whispers spread through the great Galactic Council. At first, most aliens laughed. The reports described a young world filled with noisy creatures who sang strange songs and broadcasted endless signals into the dark. To the council, it sounded like nothing but childish play. Primitive. One delegate snorted, his scales glittering in the light. Another climbing species, said another, her wings folding smugly. They will burn themselves out before reaching the stars. The chamber rang with amusement. To them, Earth was a small curiosity, entertaining, but harmless. But not all shared the laughter. A few sat silent, their faces tight, their voices low. They had read the deeper parts of the report. The humans' history, the endless wars, the battles fought not for survival alone, but for pride, for land, for belief, the struggles against plague, famine, storms, and still the species endured. One counselor, old and scarred from many wars, leaned forward. His voice was sharp and carried weight. Do you not see the danger? These humans, they fight themselves harder than most fight their enemies. If they turn that spirit outward, what then? But his warning only fueled the chamber's laughter. Let them fight, another said. They will destroy themselves before they touch the stars. They are too fragile, added a counselor with gleaming mandibles. Their world is unstable, their bodies weak, their lives short. They will never last. The debate went on for hours, laughter rising, warnings drowned in mockery. At last, the council voted. Earth would be invited, not as equals, not as allies, but as entertainment. They should see the galaxy, one delegate sneered. Let them marvel at powers they will never match. Yes, another agreed. Let the humans speak before us. Their pride will amuse us all. So the decision was sealed. A human would stand in the council chamber. On Earth, the message arrived like thunder. The Galactic Council had called. Humanity was to send a representative beyond the stars. The news divided the planet. Some cheered, thrilled by the chance to join something greater. Others feared a trap. Governments argued. Scientists debated. People prayed. But in the end, one figure was chosen. A man not of royalty or fame, but of calm strength. He was a diplomat, a soldier once, and a survivor of Earth's harshest battles. His name was not important. What mattered was what he carried. The weight of an entire world rested on his shoulders. The day of his departure was filled with silence. Crowds gathered, watching as a sleek alien craft descended once more. Cameras rolled. Children waved. Old veterans saluted. The representative walked forward, his step steady, his face calm. He did not smile. He did not bow. He carried himself as if walking into history. As the ship lifted into the sky, leaving Earth behind, humanity held its breath. The council chamber was vast. Columns of crystal rose high, light shimmering through them like rivers. Thousands of species filled the tiers, scaled, feathered, armored, and furred. Voices clicked, hummed, growled. And at the center stood the human, alone. The laughter began before he even spoke. So small, a booming voice echoed. Look at its fragile skin, another mocked. It cannot even breathe most worlds' air. How weak. The sound of ridicule swirled around the chamber like a storm. But the human did not flinch. His eyes swept the chamber, calm and unyielding. He stood as if the mockery did not touch him. He waited, letting the noise die on its own. When silence finally fell, his voice cut through the air. You laugh, he said simply, but I am not here for your laughter. I am here for truth. The chamber shifted, whispers rising. His tone was steady, his words clear. On Earth, We faced storm that tried to drown us, ice that tried to bury us, fires that tried to burn us. We faced hunger, plague, and death. We faced each other in wars that lasted centuries. And still, we survived. Some counselors stirred uneasily. The laughter weakened. The human continued, his voice rising. You think us weak because we bleed. But we bleed and keep fighting. You think us fragile because our lives are short. But in those short years, we build, we create, we endure more than most of you can imagine. Silence spread like frost across the chamber. The human's words struck deep, heavier than anyone expected. Finally, one counselor sneered, trying to break the tension. Strong word from a fragile species. But words are wind. Can you prove what you claim? The challenge hung heavy in the air. The human did not hesitate. His eyes, dark and steady, locked onto the counselors. Then test us, he said. The chamber froze. A whisper ran through the crowd, sharp and electric. The humans had not begged for mercy. They had not cowered. They had demanded a trial. For the first time, the council's laughter died completely, and in its place came unease. The council chamber was silent. No laughter, no whispers, only the echo of the human's words. Then test us. Thousands of alien eyes fixed on him. Some glittered with anger, others with curiosity, but most with disbelief. No species so young, so fragile, had ever dared to challenge the council itself. The high speaker, a towering being with a voice like thunder, leaned forward. You invite trial, human? You would stand against the galaxy's judgment. The human did not move. His stance was firm, his gaze unflinching. I do not invite it, he replied. I accept it. If you doubt humanity's strength, then show us your test. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Counselors exchanged sharp words in their own tongues. Some demanded punishment. Others whispered that this boldness must be crushed. But there were also those, older and wiser, who felt a strange chill. The high speaker raised one clawed hand for silence. Very well. If the humans wish to be tested, let them face what no weakling has survived. The arena. The word spread like wildfire through the chamber. The arena. It was not a place of games or simple trials. It was a crucible of death. Beasts captured from the darkest worlds, predators bred for war, challenges designed to shatter courage. Entire species had been humbled there, their pride broken before the council's eyes. Now, humanity would stand in that pit. When the human representative returned to his quarters, he found 3 of his chosen companions waiting. Soldiers, explorers, people who had lived through Earth's hardest trials. They had not come for glory. They had come because they knew the council would never believe words alone. They want us dead, one soldier muttered, checking the edge of his simple blade. This is not a test. It's an execution. Then let them watch, the human leader answered quietly. Let them see what happens when you try to break us. The arena was a circle of stone and steel, vast enough to hold 100 warriors. Towers rose on all sides, filled with counselors, soldiers, and civilians eager to watch the spectacle. The gates groaned open. The humans stepped into the blinding light, small against the immensity of the arena. Their armor was simple, their weapons crude compared to the advanced technology of their hosts. Yet they stood together, shoulders squared, eyes steady. The crowd roared with laughter and jeers. Fragile. Soft skins. They will last minutes. The humans ignored it all. From the far side of the arena, another gate opened. The ground trembled. The sound of claws scraped against steel. And then it appeared. The predator, a massive creature, taller than any human, with armored scales, 6 limbs ending in curved talons, and a jaw lined with rows of teeth. Its eyes burned with hunger. It had been starved, trained only to kill. The council hushed. Even they respected the beast. The human soldier whispered, Orders. The leader's eyes never left the predator. The same as always. Survive. Adapt. Overcome. The beast charged, earth shaking beneath its weight. The crowd leaned forward, certain the humans would scatter in fear. But they didn't. Instead, they moved with sharp precision, splitting apart in 3 directions. One drew its attention, dodging between its claws. Another circled behind, striking at its exposed joints. A third threw dust and debris into its eyes. The crowd gasped. These were not random movements. They were tactics, coordinated, practiced. The predator roared, slashing wildly. A human was knocked aside, blood staining the date. The council cheered, sure it was over. But the fallen human rose again, teeth gritted, limping but unbroken. He raised his blade and rejoined the fight. The beast lashed out again, but this time the humans were ready. They lured it toward a broken pillar, dodging at the last moment. The predator slammed into the stone. Dazed, seizing the moment, two humans climbed its back, driving weapons between its scales. The third slashed at its legs, crippling its movement. The leader shouted commands, every voice steady despite the chaos. Blood sprayed across the sand. The predator thrashed, but the humans clung on like shadows of death. With one final strike, the leader drove his blade deep into its skull. The beast collapsed with a thunderous crash. Dust filled the arena. For a heartbeat, the chamber was silent. Then, an uproar. Some counselors shouted in fury, insisting the fight was trickery. Others stared in disbelief, unable to speak. But the oldest among them sat in silence, a growing fear spreading in their eyes. Humans had done the impossible. They had not only survived the predator, they had hunted it. The high speaker's voice trembled with controlled anger as he addressed the human leader. You have passed the test. But know this, the galaxy is vast. Stronger foes await. You cannot win forever. The human wiped blood from his hands, his eyes burning with quiet fire. Perhaps, he said, but remember this, we do not fight to win every battle. We fight because we refuse to fall. The words echoed long after he left the arena. For the first time in the council's long history, laughter had turned to silence. And deep within that silence, fear was born. The arena floor was still stained with the blood of the beast. Its massive body lay silent, a reminder of what had just happened. A creature that had killed countless warriors now lay dead beneath the hands of humans. The crowd did not know how to react. Some shouted in anger, others whispered in fear. For the first time, laughter was gone from the council's chamber. The humans had stood their ground. They had fought with precision. They had survived, but the trial was not finished. The high speaker, unwilling to admit defeat, rose from his throne. His voice boomed across the chamber. One beast is not proof. Perhaps luck carried them. Let us see if luck saved them again. The gates groaned open. This time, two predators stalked into the arena, smaller than the first, but faster, with razor-sharp tails and eyes glowing red in the dust. Their screeches filled the air, piercing and cruel. The humans tightened their formation, sweat streaking their dote-stained faces. Their weapons were chipped, their armor cracked, but their eyes burned with determination. The leader's voice was calm, steady, same as before. Survive, adapt, overcome. The predators attacked together, darting forward with terrifying speed. One lunged high, claws flashing, while the other swept low, its tail slicing through the air like a blade. The humans moved as one. Shields rose, blades slashed, feet shifted in practice rhythm. They were not faster, not stronger, but they were coordinated. The crowd gasped as one soldier caught the tail strike on his shield, even as another slashed across the creature's exposed leg. The predator shrieked in pain, blood spraying into the sand. But the fight was far from over. The second predator struck from behind, jaws snapping. It clamped down on a soldier's arm, dragging him to the ground. The crowd roared with savage joy. Yet instead of panic, the fallen human shouted, "Now!" In an instant, the leader drove his blade into the beast's exposed neck, forcing it to release its grip. The wounded soldier pulled free, blood pouring from his arm, but his teeth clenched, his eyes fierce. He refused to fall. The council watched in silence. To them, wounds like this should have meant death. Yet the human fought on, refusing surrender. The battle raged for long minutes. Sand turned dark with blood, beast blood, and human blood. The predators moved with speed that no single fighter could match. But the humans worked as a unit, covering each other's blind spots, drawing the beast into traps. One soldier leapt onto a predator's back, stabbing again and again between its armored scales. Another used broken stones from the arena floor to blind the second. The wounded human fought one-handed, his shield strapped to his bleeding arm as he drove forward without hesitation. The crowd could not believe what they were seeing. Humans were not only surviving, they were winning. Finally, with a final coordinated strike, the leader signaled. 2 humans forced one predator down, pinning its neck. The wounded soldier, blood dripping from his arm, raised his blade and brought it down. The beast's head rolled onto the sand. The last predator, seeing its packmate fall, turned wild with rage. It slashed, clawed, and roared. But rage was weakness. The humans drew it in, step by step, until it stumbled into the broken remains of the first beast. Pinned and off balance, it never saw the leader's final strike. Silence followed. 2 predators lay dead. The humans stood, blooded, exhausted, but alive. The chamber was frozen. Not even Whispers dared to rise. The High Speaker's mandibles clicked in fury. His voice shook the chamber. Enough. This trial is over. These humans, they are reckless, stubborn, and dangerous. He meant to condemn them. But to many in the crowd, the words carried a different meaning. Dangerous. Some counselors whispered to their aides, their eyes wide, if they can fight like this with crude weapons, what happens when they learn our technology? What happens when they fight together as one world? For the first time in centuries, the council felt something they had not felt in generations. Fear. The human leader looked up at the tears of alien faces. His body was bruised, his armor cracked, his men bleeding, but his voice was steady. You wished for proof. You wished for a test. Now you have it. We are human. We are not prey, and we will not kneel. The words carried across the vast chamber like a blade through silence. The council, once filled with laughter, sat unmoving. Not a single alien dared to mock. And deep in the shadows of the chamber, some whispered to themselves the truth they dared not speak aloud. If this is humanity's strength when they are young, what will they become when they rise? The council chamber emptied slowly, but the silence lingered. The images of humans standing over dead predators would not leave the minds of those who had witnessed it. For some, it was a warning. For others, it was an opportunity. In the private halls of the council, far from the public eye, powerful factions gathered. Voices clashed, sharp and urgent. They are too dangerous, hissed a counselor with glittering scales. You saw it yourself. Crude weapons, broken armor, and still they killed what none of our soldiers could. If they grow stronger, who will stop them? Another pounded a clawed fist against the table. We must end them now. Strike their world before they rise. If they unite, if they spread, the galaxy will never be safe again. But not all agreed. A few counselors, older and wiser, shook their heads. End them? You think it will be so easy? Did you not see? They do not give up. They do not surrender. Even when bleeding, even when broken, they rise again. The argument grew louder, filling the chamber with rage and fear. But in the end, fear won. A decision was made in whispers and shadows. Humanity would not be welcomed into the stars. Humanity would be destroyed. Back on Earth, the humans did not know of these plans, but they suspected. The representative who had stood in the arena returned to his planet with grave words. He had seen the hatred in the council's eyes, the fury behind their silence. They fear us, he said to the leaders of Earth. And because they fear us, they will come. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. The governments of Earth looked to one another, uncertain. Humanity had only just begun to stretch its reach into space. Their ships were small, their fleet scattered, their weapons limited. Against the might of the galaxy, what chance did they have? But the representative only smiled, though it was a grim smile. We have faced worse odds before, and every time we endured. The skies above Earth grew busy. Factories burned day and night, producing weapons, ships, and armor. Old rival nations put aside grudges, their soldiers training side by side. Engineers studied every fragment of alien technology they had seen, every movement, every sound, and began to adapt. The world that once fought itself now prepared as one. Yet tension ran deep. People whispered of fleets gathering in the dark, of alien armadas sharpening their claws. The night skies seemed heavier, as if war itself was already on the horizon. And far beyond Earth, Those whispers were true. Alien fleets moved quietly, gathering at hidden stations. Ships older than human history were fueled and armed. Soldiers prepared for invasion, sharpening their talons and claws, convinced that crushing Earth would be quick, clean, final. They are strong for their age, one alien commander growled. But they are still young. Their weapons are nothing. Their fleets are dust. We will strike fast. Earth will burn before they take their second step into the stars. The soldiers roared their approval. They had seen weak species before, species who shouted but fell silent the moment true war came. To them, humans were no different. But the commanders did not know the truth. They did not understand what it meant to be human. On Earth, the first fleets were assembled. They were small compared to the armadas of the galaxy, but they carried something the aliens had never faced. Humans had studied war for thousands of years. They had written it in their history, in their blood, in every scar across their world. While other species fought enemies from outside, humanity had fought itself again and again, never stopping, never surrendering. That endless struggle had forged something no technology could match: strategy, guerrilla tactics, ambushes, sacrifices, unity through chaos. The representative stood before Earth's first united fleet and spoke. His voice carried to every ship, every soldier. They come to burn our world. They think us fragile. They think us weak. But we have survived everything our planet threw at us. Now, we will show the galaxy what humanity truly is. The alien armada moved first. They came in silence, black ships slipping through the stars, confident of victory. Their commanders laughed, imagining the fear in human eyes when they saw the storm approach. But when they arrived, they found something waiting. Not fear, not surrender. Human ships. Small, patched, and crude compared to alien craft, but already in formation, already prepared. The aliens paused. How had humans known? How had they predicted the strike? And then the human fleet moved, not with the slow, proud discipline of most species, but with a wild, unpredictable fury. Their ships split apart, striking from angles the aliens had never prepared for. Mines hidden in the void exploded, tearing into the first wave. Human pilots dived headlong into battle, willing to die if it meant crippling the enemy. The galaxy had expected prey. What they met was a predator. The first clash was only the beginning. War had come, and the galaxy would never be the same again.